After a lot of debate, Britain's Prime Minister has the vote he wanted, winning approval to hold a snap election in December. Boris Johnson hopes it will resolve once and for all what Britons want for Brexit.
The ayes to the right, 438. The noes to the left, 20. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlock. Order.
We are left with no choice but to go to the country to break free from this impasse and to allow us all to submit, as we must, in all humility, to the judgment of the electorate.
The vote passed today after several attempts. The election will be held the second week of December. It's been 4 years since the country narrowly passed a referendum to leave the European Union, and Johnson had promised to finally get a deal everyone could support. That hasn't happened. Now Johnson is hoping the election will reveal that people still want a Brexit. Christophe Bondy is an international trade and investment lawyer at Cooley LLP in London. He's also formerly senior counsel to Canada in European trade deal negotiations. He has been watching this all unfold for us in London tonight. Hi, Mr. Bondy. Wonderful to see you again.
Hi, Vashi. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming on to help us understand the latest development in all of this. Help us understand the bill to hold a snap election has now passed a third reading off to the House of Lords, where it likely won't face any opposition. Why is this snap election so important to the Prime Minister?
Well, at this point, Boris Johnson could have tried to push his withdrawal agreement bill through the House of Commons or in the alternative, seek an election. And it's interesting that he chose to seek an election. Ironically, this is an election that some say neither of the major parties wanted, because the Conservatives wanted to say before they went to the people, we have delivered Brexit. You remember that Boris Johnson was scheduled to die in a ditch tomorrow night or Halloween if he didn't deliver Brexit by that date. He hasn't done. And so now they're going back to the electorate, knowing that the Brexit Party is out there potentially splitting their vote. Whereas on the Labour side of things, Labour is concerned about their leader being unpopular, their own position on Brexit being ambiguous, and having their own vote taken from the Liberal Democrats, who are one of the few true Remain parties. So the election becomes almost, in effect, a plebiscite on Brexit. Mm-hmm. It might get sidetracked, as elections are wont to do, by other issues. But really, this is Britain's chance to say, what do they really want? And ironically, there's so much division in this society and in a first past the post system that there's every good chance this will simply end up in another hung parliament. Some commentators have suggested that really all the opposition needs to do is prevent the Conservatives from getting a majority. And then there'll be another phase of prolongation before Brexit ever happens, if it ever happens, because the opposition can form some kind of coalition. Certainly, this is going to be a very bitterly fought election. It's going to be a Leave versus Remain election. And the political advisor to the Prime Minister, Dominic Cummings, who was a leader of the Leave campaign, is certainly gunning for a Parliament versus the People election, to say that the Parliament was unable to deliver Brexit. So people now tell the Parliament what you really want.
Yeah, I guess you've kind of answered my next question, but I just want it to be clear for our viewers. Are there any direct implications for Brexit because of this election? I get it that it's obviously going to all revolve around it, but does the outcome necessarily immediately determine what happens now with Brexit?
Well, if one were to get a Conservative majority out of this election, the Conservatives would certainly use that majority to vote through a withdrawal agreement in the form that Boris Johnson finally came back with. That agreement, it's interesting, as I said at the beginning, that he decided not to try to push that agreement through Parliament, because it's such a bad agreement for Britain that it was never going to withstand parliamentary scrutiny. And therein lies his problem in this election, because of the structure of that proposed withdrawal agreement, the party in Northern Ireland, the DUP, Democratic Union Party, is furious with the Conservatives because Boris Johnson basically threw them under the bus. The Scottish vote is certainly not going to go Conservative. Every metropolitan area in Britain is a Remain area by and large. And so it leaves one wondering what is going to be left to vote for a Conservative majority. Ironically, though, the Conservatives, at least on population basis, are voting in are in a majority. They're actually polling reasonably well. So it is anybody's guess. But if on the other hand, a minority government came out or a strong Labour/Lib Dem performance, you might see a very softer form of Brexit. You might see Brexit not happening at all. So it is crucial to the Brexit process. For the moment, Brexit is not going to happen on October 31st. And I know there will be a lot of people celebrating the fact that the UK remains a member of the EU on the 1st of November. The EU granted an extension until the end of January of 2020, saying that this is the last extension the UK is going to get. And if the UK manages to sort itself out and decide what it wants before then and decides in favor of Brexit, it could happen a little bit earlier. What the parties have avoided is the hard Brexit, which Boris Johnson was threatening for the end of October, which really would have caused a great deal of hardship in this country. When you imagine 45 years of deep legal regulatory integration with your closest, biggest trading partner by far wiped out overnight, it would have been very, very difficult. So that threat of no deal Brexit is taken away, but the ultimate outcome of Brexit remains up in the air.
And just before I let you go, what about the appetite or lack thereof for this election among the public? I mean, there have been a number of elections in Britain over the last few years. Is there any less of an appetite for one right now? And might that impact the way in which it unfolds, or what's your sense?
Well, it's extraordinary to have an election at this time of the year. And so that has been a concern for some people. Are people going to come out to vote in early December? There's been a lot of jokes about that. But I think overall, the mood is that the people do need to vote. There does need to be some attempt to break the impasse. And the question is, what's going to happen? As I say, on the one hand, it looks like the Conservatives are polling well. But on the other hand, there are whole sections of the United Kingdom that are never going to vote Conservative based on what they've done with Brexit so far.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Bondi. Appreciate your insights as always.
Thank you.
Christoph Bondi of Cooley LLP from London. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.